President Tinubu pays tribute to late Awujale, urges leaders to emulate his values.
Leader of conscience, tradition, and a great value. He brought pride, dignity, and honor to the Yoruba race.
Respect due process, no court order for recall, Senate tells Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.
Strengthening Nigeria-US ties, Houston mayor proposes direct flights and opening of Nigerian consulate.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall focus on Nigeria's latest inflation figures.
The National Bureau of Statistics has just released its latest Consumer Price Index report for June 2025, and there is a noticeable shift in the inflation numbers.
Indeed, and for the first time in a while, the headline inflation rate has dropped, now at 22.22%, down from 22.97% in May.
That's true, Jumai. One of the major highlights of the report is the significant drop in the year-on-year inflation rate. In June last year, it stood at 33.95%. This time, is down by nearly 12% points.
And that's indeed good news, as part of the reason for the drop is a technical one. The base year for calculating the CPI has been updated to 2024, and that change alone is affecting how inflation is being reported.
The report also shows that inflation is cooling across both urban and rural areas. Urban inflation came down to 22.72%, while rural inflation dropped to 20.85%, both lower than previous levels.
Yes, both lower than previous level. And food inflation, which directly affects many households, now stands at 21.97%, a big drop from 40.87% recorded in June last year.
The core inflation, that's the rate that excludes volatile items like food and energy, also eased, now at 22.76% compared to 27.40% in June 2024.
So what does all this mean for everyday Nigerian and for the economy?
Well, that's the big question. So for one, it could ease the pressure on household budgets, especially if prices begin to stabilize. It may also give the central bank more room to tweak monetary policy. And
there are also regional differences too. Some states like Borno, Abuja, and Benue recorded the highest inflation rates. Others, including Zamfara, Yobe, and Sokoto, saw the lowest.
The numbers give us a lot of think about, not just the headline drop, but what's driving it and what it means going forward.
And we'll also explore that, that more during this program today, especially now that the change in the base year affects the picture.
I'm Ademola Adeoye. Thanks for starting your Monday with us. It's the first edition of the week on Good Morning Nigeria.
And I'm Jumo Yusuf. We're live on the network service of the NTA. In the course of the program, Chukudi Okolubaja will be here later with newspaper review.
But first, let's join Stella Inamete for today's news highlights.
Good morning, Ademola. Good morning, Jeremiah. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Bola Tinubu
we have
joined leaders, particularly
to pause
you have to pause a little,
I think there is we're having some technical hitch, so
yes.
just discuss about today's, topic,
The
which is
CPI.
the CPI. Okay.
You know, when we talk about issues like this, and the viewer usually wants to learn more about how the CPI operates and how it affects the downward or upward, of the price index in Nigeria. And it's amazing that in some areas food prices are still up. In a place like Maiduguri, and I know so many things are happening over there, and the viewers will want to know how the CPI goes up and comes down, and how we as Nigerians contribute to it. We'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go away.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Ìjọba fún wa ní 75,000. NIN mi àti káàdì ìdásílẹ̀ ọgbà. Nígbà tí mo sì gbà, mo fi ṣe nǹkan tó dáa, mo ra oògùn nínú rẹ̀. Mo ra oúnjẹ tí màá jẹ nínú rẹ̀. Mo sì wọkọ̀ mi náà níbẹ̀. A sì fi yòókù ṣe ọrọ̀ ajé pé ká tó máa rí dé bá. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba wa òkè.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
Welcome back, and I'll be taking the news today due to some technical issues. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has enjoined leaders, particularly in the southwest, to carry on the values of consistency, sincerity and boldness that the late Awojale of Ijebuland, Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetono, represented. President Tinubu was in Ijebu Day at the 8th day prayers for the deceased, who was one of the longest-serving traditional rulers in Nigeria.
Leader of conscience, tradition, and a great value. He brought pride, dignity, and honor to the Yoruba race. I'm extremely proud of him. Very honest, very bold, very courageous, very truthful. He will not deceive you. We have to be more united. His legacy we endure. It's left for you and I to reflect the culture, the value that he represented. God Almighty will grant him a legion of Fidaus.
In the meantime, Muslims in their numbers have held a special prayer session for the repose of the soul of the late former Nigerian leader, Muhammadu Buhari. The dua session, which coincided with the 7th day of his departure, was organized by the Ansaruddin Islamic Society.
To pray for him. Everybody is praying for him, and we thank everyone for the prayers.
Continue to pray for him, whether you're Muslim or Christian. We ask all our leaders, from councillor to president, that she emulate him.
The most senior member of the Buhari family, Malam Mamman Daura, has on behalf of the family expressed gratitude to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his wife, the First Lady Senator Remi Tinubu, for their role and that of the government of the Federation before and after the passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari. In a statement signed by late Buhari spokesperson Garba Shehu, the family takes comfort in receiving such support from the President and the Vice President Kashim Shettima, who went to the United Kingdom and Daura with ministers during the mourning period, adding that the kind gestures has instilled confidence to face the loss with courage. The family says it is deeply grateful to the president for thoughtfully declaring a public holiday and renaming the University of Maiduguri after Muhammadu Buhari. Gratitude also goes to the federal government, interministerial committee, friends, sympathizers, Nigerians and leaders of the various countries across the globe who either came in person, sent representatives, sent letters or placed personal telephone calls to commiserate, and of special note, those of the Kingdom of England, King Charles III. The presidency is responding to what it describes as ADC's recent comments in the public space. Special advisor to the president on media and public communications, Sunday Dare, observes that the ADC failed to note that Buhari was honored with a befitting burial as a statesman. He said the Tinubu administration is neither desperate nor searching for cheap popularity, but would rather allow its growing list of achievements in different sectors to speak for itself. The Senate reaffirms that there is no subsisting court order mandating the Senate to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan before the expiration of her suspension. The Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Yemi Adaramodu, in a statement says this clarification becomes necessary following the circulating claims by the suspected senator that she intends to resume at the Senate next Tuesday based on a misinterpretation of the recent judgment delivered by Justice Binta Inyako of the Federal High Court in Abuja. He adds that it was surprising and legally untenable that Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, while on appeal and having filed a motion for stay against the valid and binding orders made against her, is attempting to act upon an imaginary order of recall that does not exist. The statement advised the senator to refrain from any attempt to stump the Senate next Tuesday, as doing so would not only be premature but also undermine the dignity of the Senate and violate due process. The Senate, he says, is a law-abiding institution, is committed to upholding the rule of law and the integrity of its proceedings, and it will not tolerate the disruption of its proceeding. It asks Senator Natasha to respectfully stay away from the Senate chambers and allow due process to run its course. Now, in order to further strengthen the relationship between Nigeria and the USA, the mayor of Houston, Mayor John Whitmer, has called for direct flights between Nigeria and Houston, as well as opening a Nigeria consulate in the state. This was the highlight of the meeting between Abike Dabiri Erewa, Chairman, CEO Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, and Mayor Pro Tem Martha Castex Tatum, representing Mayor John Whitmer in Texas, USA. The mayor said these measures should further deepen collaboration in areas such as consular representation, trade, and diaspora engagement. He also stressed that such measures would enhance science services and opportunities for the Nigerian community in Houston. And as the news will take a break, we'll be right back.
Transfer office.
What do you need?
Guys, food is ready.
To impress.
No buy am. But why? No see say
say this big bull bag of rice no get the new big bull holographic seal?
Not true. Introducing the Big Bull Holographic Seal Tape, your favorite authentic Big Bull rice, 50 kg and 25 kg. Now with holographic seal tape. This is to ensure you get the premium product from Big Bull Rice. Do not buy if the holographic seal tape is not on the bag or is broken. Big Bull Rice. Tasty rice nourished you.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
This girl and many more children like her will never forget today. They felt grit. They felt determination. They felt the power of sport. Throughout this year, 7.5 million children across Nigeria will feel the same power through Milo. But we won't stop there. Next year, we will reach even more schools, more communities, and inspire more champions.
Good, tasty food is worth living for. Worried about your oil every time you enjoy your favorite meal? Introducing Smart Balance. Smart Balance rice bran oil is rich in gamma oryzanol. Several studies suggest that gamma oryzanol may contribute to the reduction of bad cholesterol. Golden Terra Smart Balance oil. Good food, no worries.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria. Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on. Malaria gone.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
The world needs mums. With a splash of Golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Change no thanks into yes please. Resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty family meals is all that matters. Where there are moms, there is love. Golden Terra oil for pure love.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Up next on the program is Newspaper Review.
Our Newspaper reviewer Chukudi Okolu-Gbaja is in the studio. Chukudi, we're discussing interesting things.
Yes,
doesn't know anything about astrology.
Interesting things indeed. You know, there are so many things to life that make you say, could it really be that the astrologers are right?
Yes.
Demola, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I know you are always jealous when I start with you. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Ladies first.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you. Let's quickly go to the papers now. Let's see what's trending. We begin with the Leadership newspaper, and below the masthead of Leadership paper, KLM, Lufthansa, Air France still sell tickets to Nigerians in dollars. That's coming from Nanta. And NCAA say they will investigate. You want to know all about that, you go to page 4. Why Obi and Rufai have yet to formally join us? That's coming from the ADC. And by the side piece of the picture story, you can't stop Obi from entering Edo, NBA tells governor. Details on page 28. Awujale's efforts brought APC merger, made Buhari president. That's coming from Bakari. Islamic cleric leads special prayers for rainfall in Bauchi. Details on page 24. And no court directive to reinstate Senator Natasha. That's coming from the Senate. And the headlines in the Leadership newspaper. 1 year after Supreme Court judgment, workers threaten strike over lack of financial autonomy in local government areas. Noge accuses governors of withholding funds, seek Tinubu's intervention. Details on page 4. And at the bottom plate of the Leadership newspaper, Buhari burial, family thanks Tinubu, Shatima, business leaders, orders. Details on page 19. Let's quickly go to this Nigeria newspaper. A side piece of the masthead of this Nigerian newspaper, Zenith Bank wins Nigeria's best bank at 2025 Euro Money Awards. You find details on page 15. The headlines: oil price crash, dangers ahead for Nigeria. Economics warn that FG's 2025 budget face threat over global energy crisis. Say projects may stall while borrowing looms amid fiscal uncertainties. NDLEA, at the side piece of the picture story you see there, NDLEA seizes banned drugs in 5 states, arrest 15. Details on page 22. Hardship driving Nigerians into Ponzi trap. That's a special report. Want to know all about that, you go to page 15. Missing 6 trillion. Serap drags FG to ECOWAS court over withheld NDDC audit report. Details on page 2. And the picture story you see there, President Bola Tinubu, his wife Oluremi, and Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun laying wreath at 8-day fidel for the late Awujale of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Adetano in Ijebu Ode yesterday. Mr. Demola?
Okay, I have the Daily Trust newspaper with me here, and just below the nameplate, we have Governor Rada involved in Daura-Katsina road crash. Details of that story can be found on page 44. Economists differ on Naira stability amidst $4.1 billion CBN intervention. Details of that story can be found on page 31. High fertilizer cost, farmers dump rice, maize cultivation. Details of that story can be found on page 3 and page 4. Stay away from National Assembly, Senate warns Natasha. Details on page 49. Pension scheme, retired police officers protest today. Details of that story can be found on page 10. ADC to Tinubu, no electricity, no vote for you in 2027. 5 months after a probe of alleged Boko Haram funding drags in National Assembly. Chooks.
Thank you, my brother. Hardship driving Nigerians into Ponzi schemes. Does it not tell us that how you bring up people matters a lot? I know that desperation could make you do a few things. I was just talking to a friend I seem to have become a pest to. that sometimes calculating is difficult for me now, concentrating and thinking properly. So desperation could really make you do certain things.
Yeah.
But I think that how you bring up people matters a lot. I keep on going back to the parents and the community. We had Honeywell, Arise and Shine, different, funny names of people who were doubling your money 3 times within 1 month and all. Umana started it. Did we join? How you bring up people matters a lot. We were taught that there were kalu schemes.
It's the value system.
It's the value system, my brother.
You get rich quick.
Because we should not be making excuses that will make people think that they're on the right track. Anyway, I pray that we're able to overcome all this. Farmers dump rice, maize cultivation due to the price high cost of fertilizer. I hope I don't make the APC jealous. The Akiwumi Adesina thing keeps on coming back to me when he was made minister under Jonathan. This is where we have a dog tie. How can he be relevant to farmers? Till the e-wallet thing came. The Minister of Agriculture is a man I cherish a lot. Anytime I see him here, we exchange glances of them, So I want the ministry to start thinking of ways of helping us circumvent what I think is a cartel thing concerning fertilizer. Thank God the minister is so good-natured that he would want to work on rising hardship over this essential commodity,
Yes, because if action is not taken, very soon imported expired rice will find its way back into Nigeria.
Exactly, with health implications, of course.
Yes.
I was just talking about the rising refuse being dumped on Karishi Abuja Road. Just when the president was going to commission all those roads, the minister...
They cleared it.
They cleared it. After that, nothing is happening there. It's an eyesore developing.
It's mounting again.
It's mounting at about 3 points. The surprising thing is that they were not there.
Are there no refuse bins there and all that?
No, I think there's a disconnect somehow.
Okay.
Because they were not there when the road was being reconstructed. Now that you have a beautiful road done by the FCT administration, you want to deface it with refuse, health problems. So it's not just agriculture. I really pray that we work on these things.
Okay,
but that's not the problem of the government. It's the challenge of the people.
The people.
Value system again.
Yes.
You remember that time we will sweep everywhere without side sweeping?
You take refuse from your house and you go and dump it on the road.
I used to miss all those sanitation days.
Oh, yes.
When we were growing up. It was fun,
You and I are happy villagers in Abuja
so
metropolis.
I
enjoy our
the
lives.
Village. I love the village.
Thinking about how we were, Damola, you're quite right. We need to revisit who we were.
Before.
In many areas, I keep on saying, this is not us.
This is definitely not us.
What happened? Yes. Clean up.
Yeah, let's talk about the workers threatening to strike over lack of financial autonomy in local government areas. Nalgi accuses governors of withholding funds. They seek President Tinubu's intervention. What is going on? I thought they have their accounts. They have their accounts. I think the local government...
the Supreme Court has ruled. That's where we go.
That is the thing now.
Can we obey the Supreme Court? How dare you?
Yes, what I'm asking is the local government, they have their account and the money goes to the local government account. So how are the state governments now taking the money?
I don't know whether that fiscal separation has happened.
Yes,
otherwise, they would not be talking about the governor holding back funds. But what is the interest of the governors in the local government, fiscal life? That is the point.
It's part of politics.
It's part of politics. And I go back to what I keep on... When people analyze issues in Nigeria, these wicked, demonic politicians and all that, I laugh. Sometimes we are the problem.
We are the problem, are the people.
Africa has to shake off a few attitudes before Africa can see something that looks like something that looks like something that looks like development.
How are we the problem? I mean, in this instance, that's what I mean now. Because it's the politicians that is the problem.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
What I mean, I think what he's trying to say is, if you're installed by the governor, you owe your allegiance to him.
It's okay.
If this local government chairman would independently will be...
Have they not been given their independence? I hear that time is up.
Yes.
Let me quickly answer you. That governor you're talking about, that politician you're talking about, is the husband or the uncle or the brother or the son of or the subject of a king somewhere in the community. Can Africa go back and start condemning itself from the roots? All these top condemnation and all that, it's not going to work for us.
I wish we have more time to talk
My
about
dear,
this. Mr. Chukwudi, thank you so much for coming this morning.
Thank you.
I wish Jamilu quick recovery.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go away.
Unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
The sport is very, very important to the special kid needs. Engaging in this kind of activities, moving the wheelchair with the strength, is a form of exercise to reduce that stiffness of the muscle. It makes them to be self-dependent, not depending. We should believe that there is ability in their disabilities.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
What more do you need?
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress. The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Terra Cube is available in beef, chicken, jollof, and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 50, 100, 200, and 500 naira.
Terra Cube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipment will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Good, tasty food is worth living for. Worried about your oil every time you enjoy your favorite meal? Introducing Smart Balance. Smart Balance rice bran oil is rich in gamma oryzanol. Several studies suggest that gamma oryzanol may contribute to the reduction of bad cholesterol. Golden Terra Smart Balance oil. Good food, no worries.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we are more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthened in unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Indeed, we're proudly Nigerians, and this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin and set the tone for our conversation today on Nigeria's latest inflation figures, let's take this background report by Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria's latest inflation figures show a decline in the headline inflation rate to 22.22% in June 2025, down from 22.97% in May 2025. Analysts say this marks the third consecutive month of decline. The highlighted key inflation figures to include headline inflation rate of 22.22% in June 2025, food inflation rate of 21.97% year-on-year in June 2025, with significant monthly increases in prices of staples like green peas, pepper, shrimps, crayfish, meat, tomatoes, plantain flour, and ground pepper. Meanwhile, month-on-month inflation rate, experts explained, stood at 1.68% in June 2025, up from 1.53% in May 2025. Core inflation rate of 22.76 year-on-year in June 2025, up from 22.28% in May 2025. For regional variations, highest food inflation in Borno State, for instance, stood at 47.40%, Ebonyi 30.62%, and Bayelsa 28.64% on a year-on-year basis. In the meantime, lowest food inflation in Katsina State was 6.21%, Adamawa 10.90%, and Sokoto 15.25% on a year-on-year basis. Experts believe that the decline in inflation rate is attributed to various factors, including the Central Bank of Nigeria's monetary policy reforms and the high base year effect from last year's inflation reading. However, inflation remains a significant challenge, with prices of essential goods and services continuing to rise. Let's now join our guests in the studio for further breakdown of the Nigeria's latest inflation figures. It's Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. Yes, it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we are looking at the Nigeria's latest inflation figures. We already have our guest in the studio with us to discuss this latest development. First is Dr. Ayo Anthony. He's the head price division, National Bureau of Statistics. Dr. Anthony, it's good to have you again.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm happy to be here once again as well.
All right. Thank you. Also joining us in the studio is Dr. Emeka Okengo, a development economist. Dr. Emeka Okengo, you're welcome.
It's always an honor to be here. Thanks for the invite. Good morning.
It's an honor to have you join us. We have regulars in the studio this morning, and also joining us is Nia Kisiju, Finance and Investment Expert, Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. You're welcome to
Thanks
Good Morning
so much
Nigeria.
for having me.
And also joining us from a Kaduna studio is Sushao Ango, Professor of Finance and Entrepreneurship, and also Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Kaduna State University. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
Prof, maybe we just stay with you, Prof, and let's get your initial reactions to these latest inflation figure, and what do you think are the main drivers of this trend?
As the report we have just for 3 months we have had successive reduction, which is encouraging. It is encouraging in the sense that we are seeing reduction. You know, compared to last year, we were at about 34.something%. Now that we are at 22%, it's a major reduction. What is driving it basically? Various reductions in certain cost areas. You know, normally the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics have a basket of products that they look at, and substantially we have had reductions in some lines of products, and we have, of course, as is usual in a basket of products, you have some that have increased, but the gradual decrease is a very good omen. The only concern, of course, is if you look at our own environment vis-a-vis our neighbors, our interest rate, rather level of inflation is a bit high, you know, 22.2% compared to what you see in our neighbors, Benin Republic, Niger, Cameroon, Ghana, and the like, who are, you know, all of them below 10%. So that is a major factor to consider. But otherwise, I think it's encouraging that we are having a reduction. Of course, a part of the reduction was because there was a reduction compared to last year, majorly on cost of food commodities, especially food products, even though, of course, in the last 1 month, we have seen some few of them increasing, fish, pepper, and the like, you know, meat. These are minor items compared to major cost, let's say, of rice, of sorghum, of maize, of soybeans, products that are staple, you know, in the Nigerian normal households. So these are matters to consider and to look at. But by and large, I think substantially we can say we are happy that there is a reduction, and it's a gradual, continuous reduction.
In statements there on the inflation rates, and it's good news for Nigerians. Let's return to the studio. Mr. Anthony, how significant now is the role of the CPI in the reported decline of the inflation rate?
Okay, thank you.
According to the NBS.
I want to use this medium to make some correction.
Okay.
Because somebody was talking on this figure yesterday, and the Station General drew my attention to it. And I said, when I come here this morning, I will make some clarification. When you talk of headline inflation, headline inflation is not limited to the year-on-year. There are two dimensions to headline inflation.
Okay.
When they say headline inflation, is the inflation that involves all the items in the basket. Presently, we have about 936 items in our basket. When you talk of headline, it's all called all item inflation. And there are two dimensions to it. It can be year on year or month on month. But many people always limit headline inflation to year on year.
But we are now discussing month on month.
We have the year on year is one we reported as 22.22.
Okay.
While the month on month is 1.68. Meaning that from June, May compared to June, average prices of goods and services have changed by 1.68%. But compared to June 2024, that is 12-month calendar, average price of goods and services has increased by 22.22%. Now, to come to your question, prices of goods and services are still on the upturn on the average, not downturn yet. When I say on the average, some are coming down, some are going up. So when you find the midpoint, the average, all things on the average, prices are still in the upturn. Why do we say so? Many people look at the percentage change that give the inflation rate. They don't look at the base, which is the consumer price index itself. The consumer price index of June 2025, is 123 basis points. While the last month own was 121 basis points. What is the difference? 2 basis points. That means on the average, prices of goods and services in Nigeria are still increasing by 2 basis points. Now, when you now find the percentage difference between two-dimensional CPI, when I say two-dimensional, this month and last month, or this month and this period last year. So this month and this period last year give percentage change of 22.22%. Why this month compared to last month produce 1.68% percentage changes, meaning that prices are going up. But the reason why we say is May 2025, we have 22.97.
Yeah.
While the current period we are referring to is 22.22. You can say the percentage change is reducing, meaning that prices are increasing at a decreasing rate. Not that prices are not going up, but the rate at which prices of goods and services are increasing now is declining compared to preceding period.
Okay, so what do you think is responsible for that?
Thank you very much. There are many factors.
Okay.
Presently, in economics, that's what we call reaction function. When I say reaction function, it gets to a point that you have to react. If price of goods are going up, and those goods are relatively elastic in nature, if I don't have money, will I kill myself? I will not buy. So household are reacting. If I'm buying 2 units of bread before, 2 loaves of bread before, let me buy what? 1. Now, another technical factor is what we call base effect in prices. Prices of goods and services this period, 2024, the CPI was already high. And you know, it's a comparative index. When you are comparing something with something that is already high in the base period, you expect a decline. So technically, the reduction in inflation we're experiencing can be adduced to the base effect. Okay. It can also be adduced to the money in the economy. Monetary policy measure these days is tight. Where is the money in the economy? Especially an inflation that is demand pull inflation. Inflation that is caused by excess money in circulation, chasing fewer goods and services. The money, look at the interest rate. High. Money supply, reducing. So the aggregate demand is reducing compared to aggregate what? Supply. So definitely price has to reduce based on what we call transmission mechanism.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Anthony, for your opening remarks there. Let's come to Dr. Okengu. We're looking at this inflation, the latest inflation figures, And let's get your reactions to that. And how do you think it will actually impact the average Nigerian, particularly in terms of purchasing power and cost of living?
Thank you. Let's take it from the point of nutrition, which is at the base of most things. For us, the older ones, to keep healthy. For the younger ones, to now build the proper characteristics to function well. And if we have a situation where we are now forced to maybe not buy at all, Dr. Tony has said, if you don't have money, you won't buy. And then you're not able to buy these essentials that you need, either as an older person or, more importantly, for the young ones who are looking at disaster. It's even more so when you see that the thing is still oscillating. Food inflation is at about 52% if you're mixing it with energy. And these are the two basic things that run us. Why Dr. Tony was very correct to talk about the indicators. Maybe from a development perspective, the primary cause will be that we are not productive enough. I don't want to use the word that we're not productive. If you go to a staple like ginger, for instance, is off the table, is off the market. Okay, and nobody has tried to bother to find out why. Is it pest? Is it land? Is it threat? And so many other things. And if you're looking at these grains, well, what will make bread be expensive? You might just link it to grains. You might link it to flour. You might link it to the cost of even foreign exchange to bring them in. So it's easy for us to be mathematical and statistical, okay, at the level of now trying to define what it is. But I think it's also important that we drill it down. Look at a country that has 320 dams, talking about fish prices going up. Because you don't have one dam that is producing commercial, scale fish, not one. And even the Lake Chad, where you keep talking about Maiduguri, cost of food getting more expensive in Maiduguri. There are two things to it. Thing number one, might be that you're not producing at all. Onions used to be, one of the major outputs from Maiduguri, where you come from, Jumai. I wouldn't be very surprised if people are now importing onions or getting onions from Sokoto. I wouldn't be.
Yes, okay. Indeed. Sometimes, yes, because the main onion farms in Maiduguri is around Bama area.
So these are the challenges. So you see, what we need to do is to, yes, Dr. Tony must do his job, and that is what he's done. But it's also important that we try to link this to our fiscal policies, because it's very important. What are we doing to be able to now promote, indigenous growth of our production patterns? There is nothing that's not a staple. Meat is staple. Rice is staple. Gari is staple. There's nothing that comes into our food systems, that is not very important now. So for me, to answer your question directly, the impact is terrible. It's going to be impacting on the young ones negatively. That is going to be stunting growth. For those of us who will be needing some nutritional support because we're over 60, it's also going to be quite tough. Okay, because you're not able to now afford, the basic you need, to probably have a healthy life. That would be my opinion.
Interesting. Mr. Nee, how does persistent food and core inflation affect poverty reduction and income inequality in Nigeria? Because Dr. Okwengu is saying that when inflation goes high on food, it affects the people. How does it reflect on the daily life of Nigerians?
It's not the importance and the symbolism of food in the Nigerian inflation basket. It's not a recent thing. It's given that most households spend a larger percentage of their income, on food. So anytime there is an increase in food inflation, it presupposes a burden, a cost burden on the household. And of course, inflation itself determines the numbers of people that also circled into poverty. And of course, again, reduction in inflation rates, it also determines how automatically they circle out. So if we are seeing cases or occasions of increase in inflation rates, we are actually, by calculation, adding up how many people are gone, below the poverty line. So it is always a border when there is an increase in inflation, in food inflation. And that is my border in this particular inflation figures that we have. Perhaps for the first time in a long while, we are seeing cost increase around major indexes. Food inflation gone up month on month, year on year too. Core inflation, that used to be the playground for us, especially those of us that think around the fiscal federalism and all that, is also up, month on month, year on year. So of course, it would appear, that what we have now is more of a technical, decline. Good for our psychology, good for our outlook, But the truth of the matter is, if you have a month-on-month inflation moving from 1.53, percentage point to 1.68 percentage points, it tells you that there was a lot of momentum in cost activities in the last 30 days, between May and June. And you also are also seeing year-on-year, month-on-month on food inflation, 21.14 to 21.97 or thereabouts. Again, it tells us that definitely some food items had left the tables of some households. And that, of course, presupposes the fact that a number of people cannot afford to, to feed themselves very well. So it translates to increase in poverty. That is what those figures are saying. But again, these figures are also saying that the level of increase, the cost increase, are also being tempered, which, of course, tells us that perhaps with policy intervention or intensification of policy implementation, commitment to the policy implementation, these issues will be assuaged, The kind of figures we have now is very strategic. For the first time, you have a figure that I see the CBN, for instance, laboring on, to take a decision. You have two sides. The headline inflation had fallen, which should, of course, excite policymakers, especially in the CBN. But again, you also see all these other components of the headline inflation moving up. And the expectation over the last so many months is that the CBN had been consistent in monetary tightening, that now that we have seen a trend over a 3-month period of a decline in inflation rate, the argument will be, is it not time for CBN to start reducing its monetary policy? Monetary policy rates. So these are the issues that will be in front of the CBN, with these figures, as it were. Well, I think there is also a need to use this figure to determine what manner of policy deployments, especially in the physical side, that will need to be implemented.
So how does that impact development goals?
Well, that is the figures. The statistics, the data, as it were, are telling us the need, of course, for policies to be more inclusive, to drive more production and productivity in the two main range of economic activities in the country: agriculture, manufacturing. And of course, the border again is that there are projections already that in the month of July and August, food inflation may even become critical, because these again are the times, for instance, in the southern region, you had a lot of rain, flooding, may be recorded, and when you have it flooding, it impacts agriculture, food production. In the north too, you have areas there they also experience a lot of flooding, and it also affects food production. You have the issues of security, which It's not just about, it's no longer just about keeping yourself alive. It's also about keeping food farm going. So we are having a kind of agglomeration of factors that are kind of coming together to impact and create a risk environment, for existence and good living and livelihood too.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Now let's get back to Prof in Kaduna studio, and let's get your view on the fact that what policy measures, because according to what Chief Akinshiju just said now, that government or the CBN needs to reduce its monetary policy rate. From you as a professor of economics and finance, what do you think? I mean, what measures do you think the government should put in place to sustain the decline in inflation and promote economic stability?
First of all, let me correct. I'm not a professor of economics. I'm a professor of finance and entrepreneurship. There are a number of things that need to be done and a number of policies. Some of them, if you look at it very closely, may counter each other. But, if you remember, and in fact, let me, even before I answer this, let me go back to the issue of food and food inflation, because I think that is, from the last two comments, it appears to be a major issue that is being discussed. Now, if you look at it, the background about this inflation in Nigeria as a whole, because for this program, we're just looking at what happened between May and June. But if you look at the background originally, the first thing was removal of subsidy, which happened in 2023. Then, of course, the exchange, the attempt to merge the various rates of exchange rates. Those are the various factors that actually propelled the economy and in terms of inflation, and that was what happened. And basically, we are saying that despite measures that have been taken, because government had taken some measures last year around this time, there was huge cost. When you look at food, especially food inflation, and it was a matter of concern to government. Now, what government decided to do then, and I believe that is why we are not at last year's level in terms of growth year on year or month on month, as the case may be, was because government decided to open a window and imported quite a number of major staples. Quite a number of major staples were brought in. Now, why I say some of these things sometimes counteract one another is that in attempt to do that, in attempts to reduce the cost of food or reduce food inflation, this was done. And of course, that means dumping more or less this kind of products into Nigeria. For the farmers that have produced already, it means they have produced probably at a higher cost. They have now been made, to sell some of these products at whatever the market can take. And that means, huge reduction, despite their cost of production. So that is what happened. You remember, on another side, we also are faced with the issue of poverty, which is a major factor and a major issue in the country. We know over 130 million Nigerians are below the poverty line. We also know that over 70% or about 70% of Nigerians are farmers. So you can now see that there's a direct relationship between the decision, the policy, to now bring in food and import it massively and increase in poverty. So what I'm trying to say is that regardless of whatever money market will do, whatever the fiscal authorities will do, all of these policies, you have to look at them, and weigh them as it is, and decide on the best way to do things. Right now, as I'm telling you, the prices of foodstuff, especially I'm talking about these major staples. I'm talking about rice, I'm talking about soybeans, I'm talking about maize, I'm talking about sorghum, and things like that. The prices have crashed. In fact, there is no market. I have said it here in this program that, over time, that I'm a farmer myself. So I know that I've taken my goods to the market for 3 markets now, and I've not been able to sell them. Why? Because of these imported ones that were produced, that were dumped at, that were coming at a lower price. So now look at this. What I'm saying is that look at these various policies and decisions that have been made by various agencies of government and various arms of government. Now, when we are talking about the monetary authorities, what they are trying to do basically in terms of increasing interest rate, or rather is to manage the funds, the cash flow in the economy, to ensure that there is not too much cash chasing too few products. And in that process, it reduces inflation. But now, if they are to reduce it, it means more money available and probably even more inflation. That is likely what is going to happen. So what I'm saying is that in all these policies that government is making, either at CBN in monetary terms or at on the fiscal aspect of it, in making all these decisions, we have to consider the ramifications and the possible implications of whatever policies that have been brought to play.
Can you tell us how significant the role of the rebased CPI is in the reported decline now?
Basically, is just to give us a starting point, a reference point, where to start from. And that's just basically what it is. So it's a technical thing, rather than basing our inflation rate on certain years, we're now using so-so year as a base. That's all we do. So really, it is just for reporting purposes. It does not have any major implication for the actual what happens in the market. So rebasing, and it makes sense, that they are now rebasing it based on 2023, I think, or 2024. It makes a lot more sense than what we had last year when we were using 2009 as the year of reference. I believe the closer the better for terms, for getting, or rather for being able to have something that is close to reality. So rebasing is in order, but it's just a technical window or opportunity, so that you know where you are starting from.
Thank you very much, Prof. Let's come back to the studio. Dr. Anthony, just like you have heard Prof said that, some of the contributors to this inflation figure is as a result of the removal of the subsidy, just like some people have also said, and the pairing of the Naira, and probably the insecurity. Do you agree with all this assessment?
Yes, definitely. Shock is inevitable in an economy. If you move your economy that you don't have shock internally, it can come externally. So when there are shocks, definitely there must be a response. And one of the variables that respond faster to shock is price level. Insecurity is a shock that has been with us for long. Some months ago, somebody criticized our figure. He said, why will food-producing states like Benue have high inflation, while consuming states has low inflation? I just laugh. I say, you are an expert, you should have answer to it. The so-called food-producing states, how many of them are producing at their optimal level? Insecurity. And the so-called food-producing states, as they produce and they harvest, merchants go there and buy almost everything in bulk and take to the so-called consuming state. The residual left in the so-called producing state will be at high price level. So do you expect inflation in such a state not to be higher than consuming state? So insecurity is a factor, a significant factor we need to address. And as we all know, food constitutes more than 40% of the weight of the item in our basket. So whatever happened to food has a greater multiplier effect on the headline inflation. Another factor that is driving inflation in Nigeria, as Prof said, is money. Yeah, inflation in Nigeria is a monetary phenomenon. If I have money in my hand today, definitely what I don't plan to buy, I will buy it. We call it marginal propensity to consume. It is induced by additional income. So as income comes in, I buy more. And the available goods in the economy or in the society may not be enough to absorb additional demand. What happened to price? It will go up. Another factor that is critical to inflation in Nigeria is cost of production. as my Oga here said the other time, the supply side is suffering in Nigeria. Many firms are not producing at their full capacity. Even the ones that are producing at full capacity, they are incurring costs. And they have to transfer this additional cost to final consumer in form of increase in price of goods and what? And services. So if the cost of production in the economy can be looked into efficiently, it will have a long way in reducing inflation figure in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Anthony. We just want to inform our viewers that you also can contribute to this discussion. You can send in your questions, you can send in your comments via the numbers on your screen, displayed on your screen. You can send your text messages or send your questions through WhatsApp. Okay, Juma.
Yes, we're expecting your questions so that we understand, you understand how the inflation rate works. Mr. Okwango, you're an agriculturist, and we just read in the headlines of the papers this morning that rice farmers, grain farmers are now not in the market because of the high cost of fertilizer. And it's affecting everybody. Food is very important. I remember like 10 years ago with 30,000, you go into the market, you come out with a load of things. Now with 30,000, it's just a leather bag. Bread is even 2,000 naira. So what does the common Nigeria begin to understand all these technical jargons of the CPI, inflation rate and all that? How do they begin to understand? Because I'm sure a lot of viewers watching us today are very, very interested in knowing.
Well, you see, that's what I've tried to keep away from the technical details. I leave it to
I
leave it to Dr. Tony. It is forte. But I try to drill it down so that everybody can be part of it. And let's use the word farmer as against the population. When you used to go to the market and get what you were getting at 30,000, how many people were living then? What was our population? And what was our farming methods? Now, the farming method is very critical to the volumes that you create. And the volumes that you create are the basis of unlocking the value that comes with it. When you mention food production states, and somebody mentions Benue, how many commercial farms do you have in Benue? How many commercial farms did you used to have in Benue? For emphasis, at one time, Benue probably had one of the biggest poultries in the whole of Nigeria. Had the Taraku mills, had even a ranch. I think they also had a tomato or something, canning system. But where are they now? For how long have they functioned? And how long, have they been dysfunctional? So first and foremost, you need to give a proper definition to the word farmer, so that we know we're not talking about somebody who is a gardener, because there's a difference between a farmer and a gardener. And so you're able to now juxtapose the volume he can bring to the market. Okay, that can now begin to now challenge, the ones that you are importing. Now, this is one part of the story. The second part is that I think that Nigeria might be one of the few countries that has the volume of population we have that is not putting food substitution, or farm substitution as a major government policy. There is no other country in the world, fact check it, that does not first and foremost do what they call farm gate, procurement, and then production support through subsidies. None. America, Germany, Britain, name it. They subsidize their farmers to the point that even if you're producing at a loss, you're in business, because government mops up and then makes it that they pay you premium at every point in time. If that was happening, a professor in Kaduna would not need to go to the market 3 times to try to sell his goods. Because what has happened from his own example is now there are now 3 other costs of transportation to those goods, because he didn't carry it on his head. By the time he's going back into the market the 4th time, you will now find out that he's not going to be loading those logistics costs, those transport costs, those storage costs onto what it is he's going to be selling. But if he had a system where everything he had produced would have been mopped up at farm gates, All right, he now knows that what I produced is gone, even if it's in my storage. There's somebody who is off taking it at that primary level. So, if we want to change these things, sometimes people say removal of subsidy. I am an advocate. I support it. That's the only way to have gone. Okay. In fact, when President Jonathan was president, I think he was in this studio, and I said, remove subsidy. And then some bloggers, started flagging my name. I was promoting removal of subsidy, and again attack his office. They said, listen, let's be real. If we don't remove subsidy, if we don't take decisions and government does not do what we are doing now, we're going to be having children who are stunted in growth. We're going to be having a country that nobody can live in. So what it is we need to do is to look at those various factors. And I just raised one issue. Let me raise another one. 85 million hectares of land, arable. Like I said, 320 dams existing, not to be built. All right? Yet, we are not self-sufficient in anything. You've talked about rice. Rice was one of the things we celebrated that we have gotten self-sufficient on. And I think I remember in those days, he was also here in your studio, and I said, NTA, have you gone to do a Vox Post? Have you gone to these rice fields? Because from my own statistics, the largest rice production system we have in Nigeria is the Olam farms, which at then was about 10,000 hectares of land. Now, if we have Olam with 10,000 hectares of land as the biggest farm, where are we getting all these thousands and thousands of pyramids that were stacking up? Of course, people didn't like it. So if you want us to change the way we think, I think we need to be fact-based. We need to now drive our systems based on data. Okay, there's been this argument. The Ministry of Agriculture has come and said to say, oh, we didn't do any importations. Okay, now, if those importations were they done as primary importations, or were they done as substitution, or what we call import substitution? Those are again two different things. Okay. If it were done as primary importations, then this is why you now have this flooding. But if you did it as import substitutions, then it was supposed to now be supporting what it is you already had in storage. If you don't have the statistics of who's producing and where you can mop, how do you now know what you have in storage? If you have silos and you are not linking those silos, to food systems that are able to now give the surplus or primary, how do you now know what you're subsidizing? So, Jumai, to answer you very quickly, fertilizer is also, for me, not a good one. For a country that has probably one of the biggest organic fertilizer systems, the Kaduna Phosphate fertilizer production plant was one of the biggest in Africa. The carcass is still there staring everybody in the face. And then you have Sokoto State with all the whole, tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of phosphate lying there in the Wuruno, area and other places around the country. Let's not even talk about NAFCON. So why on earth would us as a country be talking about that we can't get fertilizer? It doesn't make any sense. So it's for us to be a little measured, okay? It's for us to understand that there's a back end, okay, to everything you want to do. And that back end is the foundation. So if you don't get that foundation right and then get the things that support your foundation right, you're going to be having outputs that will be technical. Okay, and then the more technical it becomes, the more people are getting confused. I'm sure that a lot of Tony's friends will be very angry with him. You come and tell us that this thing is reducing. I'm not able to buy food. And people don't understand that what Tony is actually, trying to explain is what he has to explain. It's not his job, okay, as a statistician, to go and tell people to go to the farm. It is his job to say this is what is available, this is what we can be able to, and against what's available, this is what the situation is.
Actually, you explained that although the inflation figure reduced a bit, but the rate of prices still keep going up. But the rate at which they go up has also reduced. That's his explanation.
In some areas.
That the rate, that the rate of increment has reduced, not as before.
Okay. If you're buying, buying a bag of rice at 100,000 now, and your salary is 300,000, there is no way you can buy rice for yourself, buy for your mom, buy for your in-law, and buy for your for your brothers. No way.
Then you don't buy a bag.
Oh, hold on. Hold on. So that is it. If you don't buy, they starve. Understand what I'm saying? So what it is you need to do is to look at the statistics. What you need to do is not to say, I won't buy a bag. How am I able to now increase the production so that my 300,000 can be able to get me the 6, 7? We used to buy one bag of rice for 8,000 in this country for crying out aloud.
Yeah,
and this
that's
wasn't
true.
10 years ago. It's the same rice. So the problem will be what changed.
Just like we said earlier, I mean, the removal of the subsidy and all the insecurity and the pairing of the naira, all those
So
are
why
the
don't you
factors.
include increased production of rice?
Yes.
If you remove, sorry, I'm not trying for us to be argumentative.
Yes.
If you remove subsidy and you increase your rice fields, if you had 100,000 hectares of land under cultivation for rice, if you had 200,000 hectares of land under cultivation for rice, would you have more outputs?
Of course, there will be.
Would it impact on whatever subsidies you have removed ultimately? Yeah? Now, this is where we talk about the demand pool, the supply side effect. So these are things that you need to be measured about. You create that framework and then you begin to work at it. Otherwise, we're going to be having these figures 1% up, 2% down. We clap. 3% up, 4% down. What we should be talking about is that inflation has to be single digit for us to have made any meaningful progress.
Yes.
That's my position.
Yeah, that's true. Your inflation has to be single digits, just like we have in nearby neighboring countries, But I know we have had the Minister of State for Agriculture here in the studio to tell us what government is doing, to ensure that there is full security in the country. And yes, but just like we said, the challenges of security challenges and all that are some of the factors. Well, Chief Akinshiju, let's just look at how government can balance now, because there is an issue. So what can government do to actually balance or control inflation with the need to stimulate economic growth? What do you think government should do?
That's the biggest question. What we have been saying all along, merely theorizing, because our reality is that for every action, there are a number of reactions.
Yeah.
And of course, the two main broad authorities, the fiscal authorities and the monetary policy authorities, needs, of course, to create a balancing act, as it were. Subsidies was removed. Foreign exchange windows harmonized. And this freed up a lot of revenue, for the federal government, for all the levels of government.
Yeah.
So much that at the last FAC meeting, we had a historical 1.818 trillion to be shared, historical. So compare that to sometimes in April 2024, April 2023, when available revenue to be shared was less than 500 billion naira. So what tells what we are seeing now, it's a quantum leap in liquidity. And so you have that 1.81 trillion, the total, revenue generated in June, was up to 4.3232 trillion. The CBN would have to be conscious of the fact that if you allow this huge revenue, injected into the economy, it will, of course, create an overflow in the economy. And, of course, the line of thinking, if you have a huge liquidity, demand pool, and all that, it also, induces inflation. Now, the government, the CBN, in its wisdom, has now said, no, okay, we are going to sustain that our benchmark rates at 27.5%, so that we reduce the tendency, for expansion. We reduce the tendency for cheap credit, as it were. And it's cheap credit, in truth, that also allows for production and productivity. We are talking of a trilemma already, and it could go on and on. So at what point in time do we find an equilibrium, a certain balance amongst and between all these factors, in such a way that the CBN is comfortable with the liquidity that is in the economy, in such a way that we have enough liquidity in the economy that can drive production and productivity. So if you want to increase the numbers of land available to be employed in the farm, how do we also source the fund in a way that it won't impact liquidity in the economy? So these are considerations that needs to be balanced, and I think to a large extent give it to the governments. I believe that this economy is still in transition. It's been a long time we had this kind of good dilemma, as it were. What we used to have were concerns over revenue, because we are tied our revenue, to subsidy, to also subsidizing our foreign exchange. So now we are freeing up more revenue for government use. But now in doing that too, you are also challenged by how you manage the liquidity in the system. So for me, the idea is now to start targeting. I will first commend the CBN, even if what we have now is a technical decline in inflation to 22.22. The truth of the matter is it's nearing CBN target of 21.4 for the year 2025. So it's good. But would we be able to achieve the 15% the federal government had also targeted for 2025 in the MTF? If we are able to achieve that, of course it will translate no matter what, to impacting the streets. And that is the ultimate. Because for us to be able, and there are experts that are positive about this trend, that it would, of course, by the end of this year, we are most likely to go into that sub 18, sub 17 range. And if we are able to do that, it also would mean that it's likely we are attending to food production or increase in food availability. They are two different things. I think what the government has done at one point in time is to provide availability. It may not be increasing production, So, but when an economy is in transition, there is always that effort to identify and acknowledge what is not available, especially to the common people, in a way that the growth will not be as we experienced in the 2010, 2014, 2011 period, where we are seeing increased growth, but no impactful impact, on the common people. So I am expecting a situation where agriculture will be given a special place. It's still very important, where there will be targeted credits, to agriculture, where there will be more consummate relationship between the private sector, and the government. We still need a lot of government activities in providing, for agriculture. If we are talking about fertilizer scarcity in today's Nigeria, it should be a concern, because I know that over a period of time, the Dangote Petroleum Company had started even exporting fertilizer outside Nigeria, And I also know that at a point in time, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority had also resurrected about 30 fertilizer blending plants. So what happened to all those plants, that we are talking about, fertilizer? That should be the list of our problems, as it were.
Okay.
So what happened to all those plants? My producer is saying that we should take a break now. The conversation will continue on with the time.
TerraCube is available in beef, chicken, jollof and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 50, 100, 200 and 500 naira.
TerraCube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
when we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system, where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Imagine a system where you're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA, and we're talking about the latest inflation rate in Nigeria. And Nigerians also want to contribute to this conversation. Let me quickly go to Yusuf Abdul from Zaria. He said, what is the present status of the Anko Borrower scheme that was acclaimed to be highly successful? And that's Yusuf Abdul Zaria. And another one said, good morning, my name is Daniel from Jos. I want to thank both Dr. Okwengu and Dr. Nii for being pragmatic in answering these questions. Please, Mr. Okwengu, I hope to meet you in person someday because I would like to become one of your mentees.
Wow.
Thank you so much. He said, God bless Nigeria.
It's already have a fan.
Yes, and Muhammad Awal Musa Afoima from Kano said, no any price decline on goods from my end here. Good morning, Nigeria. And the drop in the Abbas G. Idris said, the drop in the inflation rate index is not to be celebrated at this farming season. Prices on food are relatively cheap. Farmers cannot break even. The cost of fertilizer now is between 50,000 naira to 70,000 per bag, while a bag of maize is 35,000 naira to 40,000 naira. There's looming food insecurity this year because most farmers cannot afford fertilizer to farm rice and maize. The government should find means of subsidizing fertilizer as a matter of emergency. And Hajia Jumwe and good morning, he said, Hajia Jumwe and Dr. Tony. I like hearing honest people like Dr. Tony. Please, ma, may you invite Dr. Tony to lecture Nigerians always on the topic of inflation. Smile like a fire from Kongolada. And Edith Isang and Abuja said inflation in Nigeria right now can only be tamed by radical fiscal measures. Government should act more to provide security. More money should be spent to rehabilitate existing roads than on constructing new ones. And finally, there should be a determined pursuit of the CNG initiative. Mr. Tony, can you respond to some of them?
Yeah. Thank you. One thing I want to say is this. I've had it in mind before. The purpose of statistics is for economic agents to take rational and efficient decisions. When we release our figures, households are meant to use to take informed decisions. Firms, the same thing, even governments. But one thing is that when statistics are being released, people do not even understand the meaning of that statistic, and they begin to criticize it.
That is why you're here.
Now, number two, somebody was saying inflation in Niger is lower than that of Nigeria. Inflation in Niger can be lower than that of Nigeria, and the price of goods and services can still be higher in Niger than Nigeria. It sounds paradoxical, which is the reality. CPI measure changes in prices, not price level. USA released the inflation figure for June last week. It was 0.4. It's 0.4. While Nigeria is 22.22. But let me tell you, an item like this in United States of America compared to Nigeria is more expensive. But the only thing is that that price in USA can be the same for more than a year. While in Nigeria, this item can change more than 100 times.
5 times in a day.
So that is where the divergence is. That does not mean Nigeria reporting high inflation mean that things are more expensive.
Okay.
Inflation is changes in prices. Some countries that are reporting is 0.2, 0.4. Things are higher there. However, income also commensurates. That is the problem in Nigeria. Inflation can be going up, but the income, let me follow the school of thought of this, my doctor.
Okay. Does not
move at the same level. For poverty level to be progressively reducing, as prices of goods and services are going up, income level also ought to change so that the purchasing power will not be eroded by the increase in prices.
I like that your school of thought. Income level should be calculated.
All right, let's bring in Professor Ango now to probably react, also respond to some of those questions before I read out some of the questions and comments that I have.
I think you should read it out, then he picks up from there.
Some of the questions you read, and or rather the comments by viewers, and that is even the point. Most of them are saying something that I've been emphasizing, but let me put it a bit clearly. You know, what happened was that last year, prices of these food commodities increased substantially to the extent that farm gate price, for example, for soybeans at the time of harvest was about 90,000 per bag, which is like, but today it's 75,000. Now, one of the persons that sent in their comments also mentioned something along this. Now, prices have crashed, while at the same time prices of fertilizer had increased substantially. Now, and then another comment. I had another comment, I think by Dr. Okwengo or somebody, that was talking about what happened to the blending plants, and then what happened, because over 30 of them were sustained during the last regime. They were resuscitated because of the various trips by the former president, the late president, to Morocco, to other places where they get some inputs for production of fertilizer. Before that government came in, that was before 2015, what we are experiencing now is what was experienced then. That is, if a typical farmer sells a bag of maize, as at that time, let's say towards the end of Jonathan's time, he needs to sell 2 bags of maize to buy 1 bag of fertilizer. Now, of course, when President Buhari came in, he tried to resuscitate these blending plants and all that, and it came to a point whereby you sell 1 bag and you can now buy 2 bags of fertilizer. What happened, or what is happening right now, is that last year, like I said, farm gate price at the time of harvest, you are taking up maize at 60,000 naira or something, but now maize is 35,000 naira. Meanwhile, fertilizer is 50, 60,000 naira, 70,000 naira. So we are back to square zero. So the implication of this is that already farmers are not, this year, for this season, most farmers are not producing maize. Most farmers are producing the condiments, like red pepper, other products that are not the real food that people need. I don't know what will happen. So perhaps maybe what will happen is to continue importation, and that is not a solution. So that's why I said when government is making policy, they have to weigh the various options. Most important, I think, of all securities is food security. We must ensure we have food security. As populous as India is, as populous as China is, they are able to feed themselves. In fact, as it is, the rice that we imported now largely is from Thailand or from India. So if they could feed themselves, and we are not able to feed ourselves because of policies we are doing and somersault in policies. And somebody was saying about anchor borrowers. Yes, anchor borrowers had some challenges, but anchor borrowers helped. Substantially, we had reached a point where we could feed over 90% of our rice demand, which is the highest, I believe, the most staple food in Nigeria. We are able to do it, locally. But this is not the case. Farmers are not producing so much rice this year. They are not producing so much of the other products this year. So government, what they need to do, which is essential, that's why I say you have to balance it. Balance the monetary side by making sure that not too much money is in circulation. But on the fiscal side, what government need to do, is to ensure that they either, not take the prescription of the IMF or World Bank that says don't subsidize, whereas some of these countries that we're importing from at much cheaper prices because they were subsidizing their own countries. So rather than take this prescription, support inputs, especially fertilizer and herbicides and other inputs that farmers need. Subsidize that. But more than that, guarantee prices for farmers. If you don't want to do that, okay, leave it. But guarantee prices for farmers so that the farmer that produces knows that he's not going to produce at a loss. If he's not going to produce at a loss, government then can now stock the reserves. What happened last year when prices were so high, government said they were bringing out 40-something thousand, I think 43,000 metric tons. I don't know where they got it from because I doubt if they had those in their silos. But nonetheless, whatever it is, government need to maintain a balance, ensure that the farmer does not lose, so that the farmer is encouraged to produce, and while at the same time ensuring that it's not too costly. And that can be achieved in many ways. Government can now directly sell to some organized people like employees, public employees and all that. If you are selling goods to them directly, they don't go to the market. There is no way the market, will be so high. You can balance it. That is more strategic and that is more beneficial rather than, resorting, to short-term importation. Just import, dump it, and then make all of those people to lose. And then they are already poverty-stricken, so now they become even more poor. And then what do we do? Because this year, I have a farm that is like 60 hectares. 40 hectares people have hired from me. And instead of what they did last year, whereby most of them planted maize, this year, most of them are planting red pepper. You know, only one of them or so is planting maize. So I can see directly from my own customers, if you like, you know, what is happening. And that, in the long run, is even much more, is more harmful to the economy than not producing the food. So we must ensure that we help these farmers, whatever way it is. You know, find ways. Of course, there are ways people are circumventing and taking advantage of these situations. It's better to find ways to manage this and ensure that we have produced enough food to feed ourselves, rather than to say we are dependent on other people to feed us. A country of close to 300 million, a country that is going to be number 3 by 2050 at 450 million, I don't think we can resort to short-term measures. And, you know, this issue about our economy being in transition, I don't know when the transition, Chibni, I don't know when this transition will end. You know, we have been in transition for too long. And I think we need to stabilize some things, and, you know, we need to know, especially food security, to guarantee it. And I want to say something, you know, as part of the security situation in the country, especially as it affects the northwest of Nigeria, where I live now, I want to encourage the governors, you know, to adopt similar strategy. In Kaduna today, we have succeeded in reducing substantially, especially in the Bernungwari axis, you know, this issue of banditry and all that. If this is solved here, but it's not solved in Zamfara, or it's in Sokoto, in Katsina, I mean, it doesn't solve anything, because what it means is that those who are not cooperating with this system, they will move there, you know, operate, and then come back to Kaduna as a safe haven or somewhat. So I want to encourage all the governors to work together, you know, to ensure whatever it is that will bring peace, so that there will be a lot of more farms that will be opened, you know, for food production.
Very much, Professor Ango. I mean, I believe the governors have heard you, and they would also subscribe to your suggestion this morning. And since we said the economy is in transition, Chief, you said, when will the transition end? Anyway, let's take some of these questions so that you and Dr. Okengu can respond to some of these comments and questions. This one says, hello, good morning to you. The factors increasing inflation in Nigeria at the moment are the food shortages caused by the insecurities in our food belt regions. The supply of money in circulation is way much more than the demand. We have too much money chasing few goods. My question is, do we still have reserves of basic food and grains? Now, the second one says, good morning. I really appreciate this issue for discussion today. My question is, what are the practical solutions to the challenges we have on goods and services? That's from Arabi Kende Paul. This one says, the effect of reduced inflation now is not an issue. The government needs to look at the production of food because input to farmer has not changed. What it means is that government will continue to import food. That means the local farmers will not go to farms. Kush, Peter, Kukui. Now, this one is, my questions as follows. Wow, he has about 5 questions. So, how have recent government policies, e.g. fuel subsidy removal, FX rate unification, impacted food prices? We've talked about that. What role does insecurity in farming regions, e.g. banditry, other farmers' clashes, play in disrupting food supply? What is the impact of the recent rebasing of the consumer price index CPI to 2024 on the reported food inflation rate? Which population groups are most affected by the rising food prices? Is it the low-income earners or the rural dwellers? What percentage of Nigeria's food supply is still heavily dependent on imports? And how is this affecting local prices? Now, this one says, should the Central Bank of Nigeria focus more on monetary tightening of ore or food production incentives to fight inflation? How can Nigeria balance food sufficiency goals with the need for food affordability? Thank you. Then this one is, good morning, about what you are discussing. The food prices, the major problem we have is the transporters. They are the problem. Government should call them to order. The price of transportation of goods to the market is too much. So let's look at this last one. Let me just take this last one so that you can respond to it. It said, good morning. I am Lukman Adeniyi Sapele from Delta State. I want to thank you for bringing people of clinical knowledge on issues of information in the country. Their contributions are exact and point blank. My contribution is that government should make efforts in connecting farm settlement from rural areas to the market through road infrastructure. It's difficult for most of them getting farm produce to the consumers. I have seen on first hand farm produce such as much as desired plantain rotting away due to lack of smooth transportation. Okay, let's start from Dr. Okengu.
Thank you very much. Let me thank my friend from Jos. I'm actually a Jos person. I have roots there. It will be nice to meet you someday. Back to the issues. I think we are dealing with raw materials as finished products. It's also important to get that so that we don't delink industry, okay, from food production. Because we seem to be focused on some kind of subsistence production systems. Okay, plantain is supposed to support even your medical industries to a very large extent, but you have to have those volumes. So it's also important that in discussing food, we also discuss industry. And in discussing industry, this is where these links that somebody had mentioned will come, transportation and all that. If you don't put that cost into the value process, then you load it onto the immediate off-taker, which now becomes a farmer. Okay, but if it's stressed a little bit, all right, like I don't know, I was discussing the potato industry, and if you just go and do a check on the potato industry, in the US, it's about $300 million potato, and how it values to rail links, industries, power stations, and all that. Because they don't have potato farms, they have potato belts. And you see, sometimes when you talk about food belts, I mean, I noticed in your intro, I heard you talking about belts. I wouldn't even know where you have a plantation. Okay, you need to have a plantation before you can start now belting it. Yeah. Now, we don't have food belts anywhere in Nigeria anymore. We used to before, but it's no longer existing. It's work in progress, and we must commend government. For us, let us start with what we came here to discuss. It's a big deal, okay, that our inflation is dipping. It's a big deal. It should be celebrated. It shows that there has been some consistency, in the plan to pull us out. Remembering, this might not be nice to some people's ears, that this is going to be a 10 to 15-year match. If we're going to be matching out of it, I mean, we could quicken it a little bit, but it shows that there has been some fiscal and monetary discipline going forward. So if we keep at this rate, and I'm sure by the time they do the rebasing, we're going to be having more good news. That's not where the issues are. The issues are at the back end. And at that back end, Demola, we will need to restructure the country. Do we have the compendium of farms and what they produce? Do we have an aggregation point where products are now, aggregated into volumes? Do we have you, Demola, who is allowed by law, okay, producing something in front of your house? It's called homestead or rooftop or urban agriculture. Please permit me to say this. As this young man, I've gotten very in MO. They came from a Ministry of Agriculture to our center, and he took a bag of cassava. His name is Engineer Rashid. And this morning, this is the third time he's posting. Out of that one bag of cassava that he took from my center, he's now multiplied it into 12 more bags in his house. And these are the kind of officers that should be celebrated and encouraged. Okay. I don't see you not doing the same thing, or you too.
We're running out of time. Let's have your final thought, Mr. Dr.
Sorry for that.
Sorry for that.
Well, I think I have to go back to when the transition we had. The transition is a transition until we feel it's ending, until we feel the crystallization of the policies that triggered the transition in the first instance. Okay. But I think where we are going, already there's a direction. Okay. We had moved from a high of a 40-point-something food inflation rate sometimes in 2024. We are talking of 21.97. And these are realistic price changes, you know. So to that extent, we are moving.
Okay.
And of course, just like I said, there are targets, and those targets are being accomplished. I believe in the next 3 or 4 months, the CBN target of 21.4 will be achieved. And I hope, you know, that the federal government target of 15%, perhaps by December, may come to pass, even if it's just about 16% that we achieved. It will also impact, generally speaking.
Okay. Mr. Nia Kinsuju, Finance and Investment expert, Chairman, Independent Media and Policy Initiative. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Insight into this conversation. Dr. Emeka Okengu, Development Economist. You have fans all over the place. Thank you so much. And Dr. Ayo Anthony, Head Prizes Division, National Bureau of Statistics, NBS. As usual, it's a pleasure to have you come in here and explain all the technical jargons over. And also from our Kaduna studio, Professor Ishua Angu, Professor of Finance and Entrepreneurship and Deputy Vice Chancellor Academics, Kaduna State University. It's a pleasure having you on the program. Thanks for your time. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thank you so much for watching. I am Jumai Yusuf.
And I'm Ademola Adeye. Do have a pleasant day.